In today's video, we will look at how to add and subtract decimal numbers. This is going to involve lining up the decimal points before we begin. But let's first take a look at how we add whole numbers first to see how they relate. If we had 173 plus 48, we know that we line them up according to their place value. 173, the 3 is in the ones column, the 7 is in the tens column, the 1 is in the hundreds column. With 48, the 8 is in the ones column, the 4 is in the tens column, and now we can add them together. This is the only way we can add numbers properly, by lining them up according to their place value. Now we know that 8 plus 3 is 11. We put 1 and carry the 1. 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 1 is 12. We write 2 and we carry the 1. And now 1 plus 1 is 2, and we're done. Our answer is 221. But what happens when we have decimal numbers? Do we do the same thing? Let's take a look. What if we had 1.73 plus 4.8? I see two decimal numbers that I have to add together. And so we do a similar thing, making sure that we put each digit in its proper place value. Let's take a look at our place value chart as we had it before. Ones, tens, and hundreds. We can see that we will need tenths and hundredths columns because we have digits after the decimal point. Now we can put the digits where they belong. 1.73, the 3 is in the hundredths column, the 7 is in the tenths column, and the 1 is in the ones column. And adding 4.8, we know that the 8 is in the tenths column because it is one digit after the decimal point. The 4 is to the left of the decimal point, and that is in the ones column. Where there are missing values, we make sure to put a 0 to fill the place, just to make sure we don't get confused. Now we can add them together, and we start with the hundredths column, the one that is farthest to the right. 3 plus 0 is 3. Then the tenths, 7 plus 8 is 15. We write 5 and carry the 1. And now the ones column, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6. And we simply move down the decimal point because they are all supposed to be lined up. And our answer is 6.53. Let's take a look at another one. 7.2 plus 14.86. Again, our regular place value with whole numbers, ones, tens, hundreds, are listed, but we will need the place values that involve the decimal numbers. Those are tenths and hundredths. And now we can line up the digits. The 2 is in the tenths column. The 7 is in the ones column. Now we write 14.86 underneath. The 6 is in the hundredths column. 8 is in the tenths column. 4 is in the ones column. And 1 is in the tens column. And again, we fill the empty spaces with zeros just to be sure that we don't make a mistake. Now we add them together. 0 plus 6 is 6. 2 plus 8 is 10. We write 0 and we carry the 1. 1 plus 7 is 8. Plus 4 is 12. We write 2 and we carry the 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And again, when we add decimal numbers, we simply bring the decimal point down in the answer where it was in the question. And our answer now is 22.06. One more addition question. 27 plus 9.58. We can see that 27 is a whole number. There's no decimal portion to it. 9.58 has two digits after the decimal point. So if we look at our place value and we add the tenths and the hundredths columns, we can try to now place 27. 27 is a whole number, and so the 7 is in the ones column, the 2 is in the tens column. 9.58, the 8 is in the hundredths column, the 5 in the tenths column, the 9 in the ones column. And again, we fill the missing spaces with zeros just to make sure that we don't get confused, and everyone has a matching number above and beneath. Now we can add them together. Starting with the hundredths, 0 plus 8 is 8. Now the tenths, 0 plus 5 is 5. Now the ones, 7 plus 9 is 16. We write 6 and carry the 1. And lastly, the tens, 1 plus 2 is 3. And we simply move down the decimal point to give an answer of 36.58. Now let's see what happens when we subtract decimal numbers. We line them up just as before. 9.3 minus 5.26. We extend the place value chart to show tenths and hundredths. And now we place the 3 in the tenths and the 9 in the ones. 5.26, the 6 is in the hundredths, the 2 is in the tenths, the 5 is in the ones. And again, we put a 0 in the place where there is a blank space. This is very important when it comes to subtracting because you will then need to borrow if you can't subtract, if there is a 0. So let's see what happens when we try to subtract. We again start with the hundredths, and we notice there is 0, take away 6. Well, if you have 0, you can't take away 6, so now you have to borrow from the tenths column. So we're going to borrow 1 from the tenths column, so instead of 3, that now becomes 2, and we're going to add 10 to the hundredths column. So instead of 0, that becomes 10. Now we can subtract 10 take away 6 is 4. Now to the tenths column, 2 take away 2 is 0, and 9 take away 5 is 4. Again, we simply move down the decimal point, and we get 4.04 as our answer. Let's look at one more. 16 take away 2.49. We put up our place value and extend it to tenths and hundredths. And we write 16 in the chart. We know that 6 is in the ones column and 1 is in the tens column because we don't see a decimal point. Now we write 2.49. The 9 goes in the hundredths column, the 4 in the tenths column, the 2 in the ones column. Now we have some blank spaces that we fill with 0. There's a 0, and there's a 0. And one more 0, and now we can subtract. And when we try the hundredths column, 0 take away 9. If we have 0, we can't take away 9. So we move to the tenths column. Again, we have 0, we can't take away anything. So we move to the ones column. Instead of 6, we're going to take 1 from 6, that becomes 5, and add 10 to the place value immediately to the right. The 0 now becomes 10. That still doesn't help us with the hundredths column. We need a number bigger than 0 in the hundredths column in order to take away 9. So we take 1 from the 10, that becomes 9, and we add 10 to the hundredths column. That becomes 10. Now we can perform the operation. 10 take away 9 is 1. And moving to the tenths, 9 take away 4 is 5. Moving to the ones, 5 take away 2 is 3. And now the tens, 1 take away 0 is 1. We move down the decimal point, and our answer is 13.51. And now you've solved the mystery of adding and subtracting decimal numbers.